Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' reading goals. I don't think that I made any 2020 goals. I don't think I did any channel or reading goals for 2020, which is probably for the best. Let's be honest. So this year I do have some reading goals, and by this year I mean for 2021. And they're pretty loose though, and they are mostly just rereads I want to do, series reads I want to do that I don't want to lose sight of amongst all the new books that I'm sure I will read. I'm using the Storygraphs reading challenges for my reading goals. And I have one that I created that's private because it's just for me. It's very specific to me and my reading goals. So the first goal that I have for my reading life in 2021 is to reread the first 4 Legends of the First Empire books and then read the 5th and 6th one. I want to do them back to back like that because it has been a while since I read book 4. And I was reading those as they came out, and I know that I don't remember everything, and I want to give the finale of the series the proper respect that I feel it deserves. I want to be really invested in the characters when we get to the end, basically. The next goal is to reread books 1 and 2 of the A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, and then read the other books that are currently available. I listened to the first 2 books on audio in 2018, I think, maybe 2017, but I think 2018. And then I started Storm of Swords, but I put it down for some reason. I can't remember what was going on at the time. It's one of the only books where I've ever DNF'd, but with the intention of, I'm just not ready for this right now, or I'm not in the mood for this right now. I wasn't disliking the story. I think I was reading too much at the same time and I knew I wasn't paying attention. And then I need to read A Dance with Dragons. Is that the next one? No, there's one more. Feast for Crows. I need to read A Feast for Crows, number 5, and then A Dance with Dragons. And then Winds of Winter, if that ever comes out. Who knows? Next up is to reread the Grisha trilogy, which I've been saying I need to do for ages. I read that series. I'm fairly certain I read the series prior to joining BookTube. Let's have a look. I have little book plates in all of my books. Yeah, 2015, so 2 years before even joining BookTube. But I've been saying that I need to reread it for ages, pretty much since I read Six of Crows, because that duology, I enjoyed it, but I found myself thinking I might like the Grisha trilogy better. Some of the elements of the Six of Crows duology just weren't my favorite. I liked the characters though. And I'm very excited for the show that is coming out on Netflix next year, right? And so yeah, I want to reread the series to have it more fresh in my mind. And then a reread I've been wanting to do again for a long time. This one, so reading the Grisha trilogy, I kind of want to reread it just to see how I feel about it now since it was so long ago that I read it. And I think my reading tastes have changed a bit since 2015. And I want to see how it holds up. This one, I will be very surprised. It would shock and amaze me. Well, not amaze, it'd be bad if I didn't like this reread. That is The Wrath and the Dawn duology. The Wrath and the Dawn, it's over here, right? And The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Ahdieh. I loved it. I loved it. I love Shazi. I loved the romance. People say what they will about it, and some people hate it. That's cool. I loved it. And I want some Shazi in my life. And I'm sick of saying that and not rereading it. So that's one of the goals. Rereading Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin, which is basically a fake history book of the Targaryen dynasty from A Song of Ice and Fire. And I love it so much. I don't know why either, because it legitimately reads like a textbook. It reads like a history book. It is not a narrative novel, what have you, but I'm just so fascinated by this fake world that he has created. Like, it feels real. It feels real to me. And World of Ice and Fire, I would like to reread that also, but I'm less focused on that one and more focused on Fire and Blood. Prior to the release of Jade Legacy, I have said this many times, I want to reread Jade City and Jade War and see how I feel about it, because I vaguely remember Jade City, and I vaguely remember that I thought, that was pretty cool, that was pretty good. And with time, my feelings for it grew further, and then Jade War just, oh my god, I loved it. One thing that I definitely want to do is, this is kind of a larger one, but this book in particular, it's a currently running series by this author, and book 2 comes out next year, so I want to read this first book. But I also just kind of generally want to read all of this author's works, and that is The Extraordinaries. In my video, I kept saying extraordinaires. Literally every time I have looked at this book or seen people talk about it or looked it up on Goodreads or anything, my brain always saw extraordinaires. And then I was searching for it and I was typing it in as extraordinaires, and I kept not being able to find it. And then I did it on just Google, and it was like, did you mean The Extraordinaries by TJ Klune? And I was like, oh, I guess so. So anyway, I want to read The Extraordinaries and then get to Flashfire, which is the second book in that series. But yeah, I want to just generally read his backlog because I loved House in the Cerulean Sea and his writing style, his authorial voice, and I've heard from other people who have read his other books that it's always, that is always his thing. And if you like it, you will probably like all of his books. This one is another undertaking. I have quite a few that are these long-ass series or these, big worlds. And this one falls into that category as well. The Cemetery of Forgotten Books. I don't think you can see it. I don't know why I'm pointing. But yeah, The Cemetery of Forgotten Books series by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. He passed away this year, I believe, or was it 2019? I think it might have been 2019. At any rate, he passed away, and I don't know if there were going to be other books in this series or not. I'm not really sure, haven't looked into it that much, but I've read the first 3, and then Labyrinth of Spirits is the one that I haven't read yet. It was published a couple years ago, but he was a Spanish author, and it would take some time for them to get translated to English, but it is now. I own it, and yeah, I definitely want to pick that up. And then also I would like to read the novellas that are in this world, but the core, the goal is just to read those 4 books. Reread the first 3, and then read the 4th one for the first time. And then, this one is not, it is specific books, but I'm not going to name them all. I want to get my owned TBR, books that I own books that I own, that I have on my shelves, that I have not read. I want to get that down to 40. Honestly, I'm not super mad at what mine currently is. I own, the last time I checked my BookBuddy app, which is what I use to keep track of my virtual library when I'm out shopping for books and things, is that app. And I think it's like 375 to 400 books that I own. And the last time I checked, it was about 80 or 90 unread. So the percentage is, I'm happy with that, but I would like to get it down even lower. So I do have a few books that I added to the prompt on Storygraph, but there's many more. And part of this also, getting my TBR down to 40, is to not purchase a shit ton of books next year. This year, I purchased a few too many, which I will talk about in my stats video. But yeah, this year I bought way more books than I have in the past years. 2020, just, what are you going to do? Retail therapy. Also, though, I did have a bit more financial freedom this year, which I was very fortunate. I am very fortunate to have that be my reality. So I did have a bit more money to play around with, to buy books with, and things. So that is all. Those are the general reading goals that I have. Now, there are lots of other books that I want to read, But these, again, are the ones that I've been talking about, I've been thinking about, and I just don't want to lose sight of them amongst all the other stuff that I want to do. These are I really need to do this books. So, yay. There we are. I was going to do this in a separate video, but I don't have a lot. So it would be like the shortest video on the face of the planet. I figured I would just pop it in here with the reading goals. So my channel goals are very casual, very loose, I feel, and not at all related to getting to a certain number or anything like that. 3 things that I want to do, though. I want to do... I'm laughing because in the past I have tried to do monthly writing updates, but I'm going to make a goal of doing bi-monthly writing updates. This requires me to actually fucking write, which has been the issue. Yeah, I've just gotten myself in a bit of a rut for the last couple years. It's a thing, and I need to fucking knock it off. So, but I think setting a goal of monthly, it's almost like my brain goes, no, that's too much, and then I just don't do it at all. So I thought maybe doing bi-monthly would allow me a little bit more breathing room, if you will. Something I have not done in for fucking ever, and I've wanted to do again. God, I can't remember the last time I did one of these videos, but a shout-out video. I have a goal now of doing quarterly shout-out videos. And then, just to have this in my mind, I want to continue doing my 30-second monthly vlogs that I do. In 2020, I got a bit off track with that. I did it for January and February, and then just fell off the face of the planet with it until, I think, September or October. Is the next one I did. Honestly, I just don't do a lot. I don't go very many places. I'm not out in public a lot. So I just didn't have a lot to do. But yeah, so I want to continue doing those, though. I want to have them every month for 2021. Because I think they're fun. I don't know. I like doing them. People seem to enjoy them. They're so super short. I usually don't even monetize them because they don't even get that many views. But I just like doing them, and I think they're fun. And I like having them, for posterity, for myself, Like, subscribe, do the bell thing if you want, leave a comment, leave a little emoji if you don't really have much to say, that is fine. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.